That's real numbers. It's 60, 70 cents a mile to drive your car.
And as Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson always says,
hope to see you soon.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
It's the WHOW Morning Show. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio this morning is Superintendent of DeLand-Weldon Schools, Dr. Michael Tresnak. Dr. Tresnak, how are you? How's your summer been?
It's gone by fast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you taking time to get into the studio with us before you get students back in a couple weeks. And it is just that. We are just about heading into the school season. How you feeling about it?
Pretty good. A lot of things going on. As you know, we had the tornado back in end of April. And we're mostly got everything ready.
Good.
Waiting on 2 air conditioning units to get to show up, which that's just the nature of the beast with some of those. But hopefully they'll be here Monday, get those installed. But essentially everything else is done. And people are driving by, they'll notice that they are tearing on the roof again. But we're doing, we worked with our insurance company, and we had a section of the roof that was okay, but we were worried that in the long term might be some issues.
Sure.
So we decided we're going to go ahead and take that all off and replace it too with, and it's being covered by insurance.
Good.
So people will see that going on, but we hope to have that all done before the kids come back on the 21st.
Yeah, well, while we're on the topic of that storm damage, it feels like you guys just responded to that so quickly and got the ball moving and got those renovations pretty much completed so quickly. I just want to hear you talk about the response to that really quick.
Well, it started with, the phone call to the insurance company, and they basically said, get going.
Yeah.
We understand. And so we had some really good contractors that we had a relationship with before, had done some work for us before, and contacted them and says, hey, can you, how fast can you man up? And they got out there pretty quick to help us out. And so that made all the difference, is that, good local contractors that were willing to work with us and get the job done. So makes a difference, having those relationships, and we were able to move forward. So really happy with how it came together, and, don't want to have to go through that again, but when you do, and and it worked out, and I have a great staff over there, that both custodial and the teachers and everyone working together to try to make the best of a bad situation. And it's come out really well.
Definitely. Well, we were talking on the show a couple days ago with Sheriff Mark Vogelzang of Piatt County, and he was telling us a little bit about what it's like to work with districts like your own that are on county lines. And, it just goes to show that those lines are made up. And, when you have an emergency, you got to have people from everywhere coming to respond. What's it like to work with Piatt County and DeWitt County first responders in emergency planning?
Well, we primarily will work with Piatt County because we are in Piatt County, but we're only in Piatt County by about 100 feet.
Right.
Literally the road that's on the west side of the building is the county line. But again, we've worked with the sheriff extensively. He was actually in there a couple weeks ago doing a training with his officers, doing various scenarios in the various classrooms. So, and we always encourage that. That's great for them to know the lay of the land. But we also know that, heaven forbid, something happens and we have an emergency situation where, we're bringing in first responders. It's going to be Piatt County. It's going to be Kirby Medical. It's going to be DeWitt County. It's going to be the DeWitt County Ambulance, DeWitt County Sheriff. It's going to be Department of Conservation Police coming in.
Yeah.
It's going to be it's going to be State Police. It's going to be Farmer City. It's going to probably be City of Clinton.
Yeah.
All those resources are going to be coming in to help us. And, you have to coordinate and make sure everyone's on the same page. I do have to say, working with the sheriff in Piatt County is great because he understands that. He understands it well, and he works with us, but he has those relationships with all those agencies. So, I feel really comfortable in this, that if we do have an emergency, we have a good set of responders that will help us and get us through that situation.
Definitely. Well, Dr. Tresnak, let's take a second, knock on wood. Let's move on from the emergency conversations.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, you have kids coming into school on the 21st. But when are staff coming in, and what are those early days looking like for them?
So we'll have staff on the 19th and the 20th. On the 19th, actually, they're not going to come in roughly until noon. We'll do a lunch together. I'm
Nice.
actually going to be cooking out pork chops for
Very
all
good.
of them. And so we'll have a lunch together. We'll have some district meetings. And then they will work in the rooms from 3 o'clock on. And we're going to have open house that night and also supply drop off. For our parents and students so they could get into the buildings Wednesday night. And then Thursday, we'll have meetings all day on various subjects and topics. We have certain things we have to do every year, certain mandated trainings and that to get ready for the school year. So we try to get that all knocked out on those 2 days. Then on Friday, we'll have kids in.
Nice. Very good. What's that open house experience like for students?
It's interesting to watch them. I mean, especially the last couple of years, we had done a lot of renovations in the building. So they walked in the door. It's like, oh, wow, look at these changes. We had put in the drop ceilings and all that. I think this year for the elementary, their first thing is they're going to look at that end that got hit by the tornado and they're going to see it's back to normal.
Yeah.
The ceilings are installed, the lights are installed, everything's cleaned up. So they're going to see that, yes, we got everything back to normal. But it's always good to see the kids there and the parents. The kids will never admit to wanting to get back to school, but deep down they do. I think for a lot of kids getting back on that schedule, getting into that routine, they really desire that. They just don't want to admit to desiring that. And I think they look forward to it. They look forward to getting around their friends and just knowing what every day looks like. And so we look forward to seeing them, getting the kids back and getting going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, while you mention, that transition back into school, anyone with their calendars out might notice that the 21st is a Friday. And so just give us that reasoning for having the first day of school be on a Friday.
This has been an ongoing conversation with our faculty as to how do we want to start the school year. We work collaboratively on the calendar each year as to what we want to look like. And last year we did that idea of having the Friday, starting the students on a Friday. And the idea is it gives us a day with the kids to kind of go through how school operates, how each classroom operates. And then when we come back on Monday, we have a full week and it's full steam ahead. And so it seems to have worked well. It just gives us one day to get everything organized with the kids. And then we're really ready to go.
Yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely. I'm curious, what is exciting about this time of year specifically for you as the superintendent?
We're always ready to get back. But I think for me, I've been doing a lot of thinking over the summer of, where I want DeLand-Weldon to be going. What's the direction we need to be going. I run a lot. I get a lot of miles in. And when I'm running, I clear my head and get different thoughts. And we're going to really have a strong emphasis this year on reading and writing, and to the point of a real push of you need to be holding a book. You need to be reading for leisure. You need to be reading for information. We want kids to be writing more. We keep hearing, statistics and otherwise, that kids are not as well prepared. We're going to address that head on. And we're going to this year really have a push to be doing more of that. DeLand-Weldon has an advantage of being smaller, and we have smaller class sizes. So we can address students on a more individual basis. So I'm going to be putting out an initiative, I guess a goal, a high expectation of more reading, not just reading for content, but reading for leisure, because that's how you expand your knowledge, is by doing that. We also want kids writing more, because to communicate, I mean, look at yourself. How much do you communicate on email? It's you're always emailing someone. But if you're communicating in broken sentences, poor capitalization, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And we want the students to be able to write well so that they can present themselves well for in the future when they have jobs, so they are able to communicate well. So this is going to be a big emphasis as we get into the school year this year.
Yeah. How do you incentivize those things like reading and writing? Is that going to be up to the educators, or is that going to be more of a combined initiative for the whole district?
That's going to be part of those conversations we have on the 19th and 20th with the faculty, is looking at what is it can we do in each classroom to emphasize how important this is to us. In my case, outside my door, I have a sign up, and I read 3 biographies this summer, one on Einstein and 2 of them on President Eisenhower. And I have that up there. So this is what I did this summer. I read these books, and we want to push that. Reading is important to us as a faculty and the staff. And if the kids are seeing that, then hopefully we can build on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Tresnak, I look at the clock. It's about time for us to take a break. More to come with DeLand-Weldon Schools Superintendent Dr. Michael Tresnak on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check in on the markets. I'm Colin Shope with the RFD Radio Network. September corn at 451, down 6. December corn at 475, down 5 3/4. And March corn is at 491, down 5 1/2. Moving to soybeans, September soybeans at 1165 3/4, up 1/2. January soybeans at 1199 1/4, up 1/4. September wheat is at 662 1/2, up 9 3/4. KC wheat at 731 1/4, up 10 1/2. Moving now to livestock. October live cattle is at 220 3/4, down 2 3/4. September feeder cattle at 335 1/2, down 3 3/4. October lean hogs at 81 3/4, down 1 1/2. December hogs at 73 1/4, down 1 1/2. This has been the market update on the RFD Radio Network.
Here's Hart Media Group owner Matt Hart talking about the Hart Media Group's continued commitment to local news, sports, and agriculture.
And at the end of the day, we're going to cover your local news. We're going to be dedicated to agriculture. Ag is such a huge part of our industry. We're obviously, if you're tuning in the radio, you know that. You're going to see that in our news, but then you're also going to see that local sports coverage as well as the local news coverage as well.
Find WHOW 1520 on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok.
SIU Center for Family Medicine is here to help with back to school and sports physicals. Healthy kids learn better and play harder. Call 217-735-2317 today to schedule your appointment. That's 217-735-2317. SIU Medicine, forward for you.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
It's the WHOW Morning Show. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. We continue with my guest in studio in this segment, Dr. Michael Tresnak, the superintendent of DeLand-Weldon Schools. And Dr. Tresnak, as a superintendent, I'm sure you're always keeping your finger right on the pulse of what's coming out of Springfield. What's going to be new this year? What's going to be affecting your district?
We're going to have to be looking at the cell phone ban that's coming down the pike. I kind of taken a back seat on that, waiting to get instructions from Illinois State Board of Education. They usually will give out. I think they have to give something out in September to all the districts that kind of takes the legislation and then gives you guidance on how you're supposed to implement it. We actually have a year before that has to be implemented, but we've already done some things in previous years saying, hey, we don't want the cell phones being used in the classroom unless it's for a specific purpose that the teacher has, and trying to control that. But we'll be definitely looking at that and figuring out how that fits for us moving forward.
So currently it's up to the teacher in the room how they would like to handle, if it's going to be phone caddies or what it is.
For the most part, we're using the phone caddies.
Sure. Okay.
They need to turn them into that. But if the teacher is doing some sort of activity that could use a cell phone, they are always welcome to say, okay, go get your cell phone. We're going to do that. Maybe it's looking something up, but our kids also have Chromebooks. So the need for that phone is minimal. And so that's our direction right now. But we got to read and see what the legislation specifically says of if that's allowable, or do we have to even be more restrictive? And so we're going to be figuring that out. Like I said, we're waiting to get the guidance from the state as to what exactly we need to do.
Yeah, there's been a lot of conversations about even Chromebooks and, just the use of technology in schools. And I've heard some superintendents saying that they're starting to think about rolling that back a little bit and maybe not utilizing technology as much. And I'm curious how that sits with you.
We just actually had that conversation this morning. I was meeting with my administrative team.
Really?
And, we're talking about the high expectations in reading and writing. And it's the computers need to be a supplement. They need to support, but they shouldn't be taking over everything. So the more we could get away from not having a computer in front of you, the better. If you're typing a paper, that's great on a computer. I get, I know personally I could type faster than I can write in hand.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But I think even with books, don't be on a computer, have a physical book. It's just different. And we want to get away from, we want to use the computers really just to supplement, just to support, but get away from, kids shouldn't be in front of the computer all the time in the classroom. And we're going to keep working on that.
Definitely. How about cuts to mandated categoricals, things like transportation?
So, last night I had a board meeting and we did approve the budget for this school year. And that was one point that I did bring up, that I'm really watching our transportation line item close. We are okay. I mean, DeLand-Weldon has a good reserve in all of our fund balances right now, but I am watching that close because we're estimating we'll get 2/3 of what we claim from the state. So what that means is that our property tax has to make up that difference. And so for this year coming up, we're going to be pretty close, we think. But again, it's something we have to keep a really close eye on. You run into that for us, it's mostly transportation, and special ed transportation is where we're just not getting funded at the level that we're supposed to be, but we're making it work. Again, we're in a good situation that our fund balances are really good. The budget that we did adopt yesterday is technically a deficit budget, but the deficit is roughly over everything about $500,000. But I fully expect when everything is said and done at the end of the school year or at the end of the budget season, that we'll probably be even. We'll probably be balanced, because I underestimate what we're going to be getting in revenue, specifically in interest and in some of the investments. And usually, in what I'm seeing right now, they're going to come in better than I've estimated, but you don't want to count on it.
Right.
And then we also have to build in some rainy day line items throughout the budget that typically don't get used. So again, like I said, I think at the end of the year, we're going to be balanced when it's all said and done.
And is there, correct me if I'm wrong here, but is there an amended budget phase or anything that comes in the near future for that as well?
So typically we amend our budget in the last month.
Okay.
That allows us to clean up various funding situations. Like sometimes our grant funds come in higher than we expected. And when they come up higher, then the expenditure side changes to match with what that grant is. So we like to clean all that up and do an amended budget at the end that reflects all those minor changes that have to happen throughout the year, so that what our ending budget is pretty close to what actually happened. So yeah, since I've been there, we've always done an amended budget in the late spring.
Yeah, absolutely. Through all of the changes from Springfield policy and damage to the building and all of these things that the district has been dealing with, Tell me a little bit about the support from the community and the ways that families have been, showing their support for DeLand-Weldon.
Been outstanding. I mean, I think that the community of DeLand-Weldon strongly supports that school. It's very important to them. So we've always felt that support, but even more than that, Heart of Illinois Foundation, which is out of Decatur, but does come into Piatt County, has shown us a lot of support, has made some donations to us. So we have some funds available that we're using to help purchase items that teachers lost in the tornado. Our insurance is pretty much covering everything, but these are items that maybe at the last minute, it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot this got destroyed.
Yeah.
Well, we can quickly handle that because we have these extra funds, or we had some rugs that got destroyed that just really easily able to replace those with these funds. So, we've had a lot of support through the tornado, but even if we hadn't had that, we have a lot of great support from our community. That place is important to the DeLand and the Weldon citizens. It's a very important place to them.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Just about a minute and a half to go here, Dr. Tresnak. I want to just give us this moment to highlight some of the fall activities that are coming up, whether that's sports or non-athletic activities for kids to participate in.
So our middle school baseball and softball are already happening. We co-op with Blue Ridge. So they've already had some games when it's not been raining. So we've had that. Our volleyball practices have already started. We have some kids that are co-oping with Blue Ridge in football and soccer. I'm sure I'm missing something there, but I mean, we have a lot of things going on for our kids this fall. FFA will be going strong in the fall. So, if our kids are not involved, that's on them, because we have a lot of things for them from day one or even before, because we're not even in session yet and we have practices going on.
Yeah. What's that relationship with Blue Ridge like?
It's outstanding. Really good relationship. I cherish what we have with them, and they've been great partners. We've worked together. You look, a number of our kids have distinguished themselves in the program. We had 3 kids in their softball program last year that were starters and then had received various accolades at the end of the season. So, our kids have been definitely a part of those programs and have helped those programs. So we really like that relationship that we have.
Dr. Tresnak, where can people go to find out more about DeLand-Weldon Schools?
www.dwschools.org, and we're, like you guys, also on Facebook.
Again, that's Dr. Michael Tresnak, the superintendent of DeLand-Weldon Schools on WHOW.
The Big 1520.